Nationals, though, down the Diamondbacks 6-2. I'm Deb Carson.
We are Fox Sports!
Welcome to Dunc Holder, probably the shortest radio show in the history of radio shows. We're on for like one segment. We're going to be preempted by the Baby Cakes. They start their broadcast at 10:20, and then they start playing Nashville at 10:30 over on the Shrine and Airline. And like I said, Jeff, I'm wondering if we should have just stayed home, but we're very loyal. One segment, we're coming in to do this show.
Is this the shortest radio show in history?
There's no question.
We're already setting records at Dunc Holder.
Unless we get, like, cut off, maybe within, like, 30 seconds. Who knows?
Well, I'll tell you what. The weekend was great. Very excited to get out to Saints camp this week, and a lot of action. It starts ramping up this week. We don't have to talk about football anymore. We're actually going to get to see it live and in person, so it should be I don't know, exciting, compelling Saints camp.
Well, we'll still talk about football, but we do get to start watching practice. And joining us right here on Dunc Holder, week 2 of this show. I don't know how we survived it, and I'm sure our next guest doesn't know how we survived this show, is Saints head coach Sean Payton right here on Dunc Holder. Sean, we appreciate the time, and I know you're busy, but look, like I said, it's a miracle that we made it a week, and the fact that you're on week 2, I mean, that's a milestone for us. Miracles.
Listen, I've been paying close attention, just looking at the ratings, and really keeping my fingers crossed for you guys. It's well deserved, and I expect this to be a long-standing tradition. And I'm honored to be on, and look forward to being on a bunch more.
So you're talking like 2 weeks, and then it's over for us, right?
Listen. I see this being much longer than that. In fact, if you need me on like every other Monday to keep it going, if that will help in some small way, I'd love to.
You shouldn't have committed to that, Sean. We might hold you to that.
Mickey's already
every other Monday in March.
We'll take that, and we'll do one at the owners' meetings, and we'll have a good old time at the big party. But Sean, appreciate you jumping on the show. Just we don't have a ton of time. We got about 10 minutes, so we'll try to cram in as much as we can. Sure. You're coming into training camp. It's home. What's kind of the difference for you and for the team? I know you've done it there a million times, but there's a lot of players on this team who haven't.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, the first thing we always look for at training camp, and when I say we, coaches, teachers, you look for routine, and what you're trying to do is eliminate as many of the distractions as you can. So, where you stay with your hotel and where the meals are at, what time the team meeting is traditionally at, what time you're out on the practice field. Of course, with each camp site, there's some subtleties that you have to adjust to, and you've got to understand that, hey, they may have to be, times might have to be moved a little bit because of transportation. We like to practice when we train here in New Orleans a little bit earlier to make sure we're getting our work done before the heat, and then handling the elements. I think that we trained here. I want to say 2008, 9, 10, or 9, 10, 11, 12, probably four or five of the last 8 years. Before that in Mississippi, and one thing Mickey and I like to do is change that part of it up. But it does give you a chance to get back here in your facility, and yet the routine and the way you train is different than the mini camps and the OTAs, and so you definitely want to get away from that. We're back in here just like we were in the spring. It's entirely different.
Sean, last week, as you know, we reached triple-digit heat index here in New Orleans. Are you all? I know you've trained here before. Are you doing anything different to adjust to that since you all haven't been in it the last 3 years at camp?
Well, we dealt with it in Mississippi, and we've dealt with it prior here. I think there's some common sense things in regards to not only hydration, but keeping the core temperature of everyone's body down. We've got a recovery station outside, a fairly large tent that's air conditioned, and I think that the other thing is being smart, and practices might go longer, but with more water breaks. I think the key element is taking multiple breaks and being smart about that. And the other thing is we'll use the indoor facility. And none of those times are posted yet, but there'll be a practice or two that we'll move inside if we feel like we need to.
Saints coach Sean Payton joining us right here on Dunc Holder, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. Sean, we know the untimely, of course, all injuries are untimely, but Teron Armstead goes down in OTAs, and now you're kind of stuck where you have options, but how open is that competition for Teron to be out? Is it Khalif Barnes, Ryan Ramczyk? Is Andres Pete even maybe part of your thought process of maybe even shifting him out over there, even though you feel comfortable with him at left guard?
Well, you mentioned a lot of the options, most of them, in fact. So, the key for us during this time in which Teron's out is finding those answers. How's Ryan look, the young player? We were fortunate to have Khalif back in real good shape, and we're deeper at that position than in probably in any of the years since we've been here. And that when you're able to take a tackle in the first round, in the end of the first round, like a guy like Ramczyk, that's a huge pick. And so I'm anxious to see how he does, how the veteran does, before moving Andrus there in a rotation. I like the work he's had at left guard, but we have some flexibility.
That's a unique position, isn't it, Sean, in that you want those guys to be able to play together as a unit at your left tackle, to play with the ones, so to speak, the rest of the ones. Yep. So will you rotate those guys in and out rep-wise? I think early on you'll see those guys getting the reps. You'll see some rotation, and then how does Ryan handle it? He's I think a quick study, and yet fortunately for us, he's healthy now, and we'll be able to start practice. So I'm anxious to see his transition. And then also with Khalif and Andrus, obviously that's his position coming out of college. So I think most importantly for Pete is playing on the left side, but he'll start at left guard.
Sean, is there any concern about maybe Willie Snead holding out? I know has not signed the exclusive rights deal. He played in OTAs and mini camps, but is there any concern that he might not be there?
When's the last? Think about this for a second. When's the last holdout?
It's been a long time.
Remember,
been a long time. Maybe Reggie or like Cedric Ellis or something like that. I don't. But that's a rookie holdout, so I don't know.
But think of that. That was all pre-11 though.
Right.
Like in other words, so that term gets thrown around. No, I don't see that happening at all. Because it hasn't. It just is something that it'd be different. Guys might not show up for OTAs but with the fine structure set the way it is now, I mean, I can't imagine someone showing up like Willie has. Willie's been fantastic, showing up for OTAs and minicamp and then holding down a training camp. No, I don't see that. I think it's an old term.
Sean, we haven't had a chance to talk to you since you all made the decision to put Nick Fairley on IR. How difficult a decision was that for the organization?
Listen, it's devastating, obviously, for Nick, and disappointing for Nick, and I feel terrible. And that being said, though, I think it was the right thing to do. I think it was certainly, based on the information we had gathered, the right thing to do. And so, I think he said it and I'm not sure right during the process, at the very beginning of it, when the one test came back, there's good news and bad news, and the bad news is you're not going to play football anymore. The good news is they've discovered it, and he'll be able to lead a long, healthy life. So it's just disappointing because he played so well the year before.
Sean, I asked Mickey Loomis this question on Monday, and I'll just pose you the same question. Look, you go into the season 7-9 the last 3 years, and Drew Brees is under contract for one more year. Do you feel like this is kind of a crossroads season for you guys?
No, I listen. I think you can. I only say this because of my experience of these are the same questions 2 years ago, where I think each season in our league there's a sense of urgency to excel and play well, and each season can take on a new meaning fairly quickly. I think it's going to be important for us to handle the first month of this schedule. And I think building on the off-season program and the spring that we had is going to be important. But trying to predict and use terms like crossroads or I understand that the part of it that you're asking, and yet for us internally, if you're talking to Drew, Mickey, or myself, we look at it as another opportunity this season.
Sure, and I understand that. How do we make that, right?
Yeah, how do we make this team special?
Sean, the camp getting ready to start this week. Are you expecting? I know you all managed a lot of guys with injuries throughout the offseason. Are you expecting to have everybody ready to go, or are you going to have some guys start kind of on limited basis?
Well, we just went through that list. No, there'll be a handful of PUP players. Just some of them we talked about Toronto already, and Max. There'll be a handful of these guys that will be a month, a couple weeks. I don't think the list will be bigger than six or seven. But once, and then anybody who looks awful during the conditioning test, might get put on PUP. But that would be what we'd expect.
Sean, one more question. We got about a minute left. We've asked you kind of some Debbie Downer questions. What excites you about this team going into training camp?
Well, listen, the start of the season, I think we have a chance to be much better on defense. I think we're going to be a lot smarter on defense. I think our offensive line has a chance to be improved significantly, and I think that our running game can benefit from that. I think we're young. The last two draft classes, I think we're going to start to see the benefits from, and we're getting past the time frame of 12 with the penalties and the loss of picks, and then also 13, 14 with some bad classes, if you will, bad poor decisions in regards to whether it's draft picks or free agency. And I think that I think Jeff Ireland, his staff have done a great job. Terry Fontenot, and I think the acquisitions and the procurement of the players we brought in of late is going to help us.
Saints coach Sean Payton right here on Dunc Holder. Sean, you open the show, you end the show. The shortest radio show in history. It makes for a short work day for us, too, because we got some long ones.
I want my name on this show if I'm literally was on it the whole time.
Dunc Holder and Sean. That's probably a better ring to it. Sean, appreciate the time. We'll catch you later this week. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Good deal. All right. Dunc Holder, we're done. Baby Cakes Baseball coming up. You missed it. NOLA.com iTunes page, NOLA.com SoundCloud page. See you tomorrow.
Let me surprise you with an interesting fact. You ready? Of all the media options today,